Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the local authority that is one of several now, so frustrated at the piss-poor so-called world-beating tracing programme that Boris Johnson's government implemented a couple of months ago that they've now just gone out on their own. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, one crucial element, obviously, of trying to get on top of the coronavirus infection rate is an effective tracing programme. When someone tests positive, okay, who have you been in recent close contact with? We need to contact them and ask them to isolate. So months ago, Boris Johnson was boasting about getting ready to unleash a world-beating system. Everything was world-beating. Forget world-beating, said opposition leader Keir Starmer. I'll settle for one that works. Months later, as infection rates are rising across the country, indicating that the R value is clearly above 1. When I say across the country, just for the avoidance of doubt, I mean England here. Other parts of the UK have devolved administrations which can counter, to a certain extent, what Boris Johnson is ham-fistedly implementing. We've abandoned the idea of the tracing app completely. That's gone. Which massively limits the effectiveness of any tracing system and means that we don't even come close to the moniker of world-beating, because quite a few countries, in fact an increasing number of countries, do have that system. And even the contact part of our tracing programme, which is basically who have you been in contact, we'll contact them, that's only getting in touch with about half of the people on their list. So to say that local health authorities are pissed off at this failure, especially when it's caused by throwing contracts out without any serious scrutiny of capacity to a multitude of private companies, when those same local public health authorities could have managed the system much better, would be an understatement. They are royally annoyed by this. So a little pocket of Lancashire, in Blackburn, near Manchester, not too far out, have decided to do their own. So they weren't impressed by the national version. I really don't think anyone has been. Headed up by serial cock-up merchant Dido Harding. Now, this is the CEO of TalkTalk from a few years ago, which was hacked by a couple of kids, compromising the personal data of well over 100,000 customers. Apparently, this is exactly the sort of person you want running our tracing programme. And you can also see why Blackburn would have been one of the first areas to crack over this, because there's actually a lovely little resource that I've been after, sort of data, for a long time now. Someone has put together, someone has compiled a spreadsheet using testing data, and I'll put a link in the comments below for anyone interested. It's very, very useful. And it shows Blackburn with Darwen being the worst hit area in England, right, as of the last week of July, with 126 confirmed cases per 100,000 of the population, which is, compared to others, very high. In fact, it's significantly higher than even second place. And also, you know, in that second place is Leicester, the significantly beleaguered and much talked about Leicester. And it's also, for Blackburn and Darwen, 10 times the national average. So the way their system, which they went, we need our own system, the way it works is anyone not contacted by the national shambles within 48 hours will be contacted by their team. But it's not just a safety net, it's not just extra capacity, because if no contact is made, because this is the problem we've got with the national tracing programme, the people they don't get in touch with. So if no contact is made by the local authorities version, someone from the council will visit their address to get that message to them. They don't just leave it alone. In addition, they will also be able to take account of any vulnerabilities for those being contacted using their local knowledge. Part of the reason why experts said from the very start that this crisis needs handling at the local level, because the national system just aims to pass on a message. That's it. It doesn't even manage that very well. It takes no account of whether or not someone can process the message, whether due to issues with understanding language or learning difficulties or any other issues that the person may have in complying with the request to isolate. And it seems other authorities have been looking at this as a way forward for their failed residents as well. So Greater Manchester was also hit by lockdowns recently. They've been working on their own version, and it seems that a local authority in the West Midlands was actually the first to come up with this, setting up their own version. And given that these systems work, I mean, who'd have thought that the system proposed by experts works better than the one proposed by the slaphead in number 10? Hopefully will inspire more and more local authorities to work on their own as well. And we may even see a bit of a fight back against incompetent national government of the sort that I've seen in the US, because I've said before, the US is in a right mess with this. But imagine how much more damage President Trump could have done if it didn't have individual states that could just do their own thing. You know, I was looking enviously at them and wishing we had that level of devolution in this country as well. But it does seem that our local councils are turning on to the fact that they need to take matters into their own hands, whether it is the way things should be done or not. And it isn't generally. I mean, what we have is a national system, and then popping up around the worst hit areas, other systems mapped on top. It's inefficient, especially when the national system is piss poor in its own right. Government scientific advisors say that you have to reach 80% of contacts within 48 hours for the system to be affected. So someone tests positive, you've got to get in touch with 80% within 48 hours. That's just how the modelling will come up with the result of we can control this at that point. But our national system doesn't even work on that basis. Just like our overall COVID strategy, like it constantly irks public health officials that we do not have a zero COVID strategy. Zero COVID strategy is one where you aim to eliminate the virus. We don't have that. We have the chief medical officer who said some time ago that we do not expect to have see any improvement at all until next spring, which is ridiculously unambitious. But it's the same thing with the tracing program as well. You know, the government are told what it needs to achieve, but it's not designed around that basis. What it does is it just, you know, it's only 50% of people being contacted. If the system fails to get in touch with somebody, it just gives up. There is nothing else beyond it. The system adopted by these local authorities doesn't do that. It makes sure that they do everything they can to get in touch. The government keep talking about how many people have been contacted when they, you know, someone comes at them, oh, your system's a bit crap, isn't it? Oh, I think you'll find we've contacted this many people. It's a worthless statistic. How many people did you need to contact? Do you see how that number is much bigger than the number you've actually contacted? Do you see where the problem is? Only the proportion contacted matters. Is it less than 80%? If it is, it's bad. Is it more than 80%? Well, then that's acceptable. If it's much more than 80%, it might even be good. They also keep talking about how the system is delivering and improving, but it is doing neither. Because experts say you have to get in touch with 80% of contacts within 48 hours. Now, despite what government ministers say in interviews, their own figures, the official figures, show that they are getting in touch with 50%. That is not enough. That is objectively not delivering because it's not enough. In addition, this figure is lower than the last time Keir Starmer attacked the government's record on the system, because back then it was missing out a third of contacts, not half. And even that was worse than it had been before. So now it's missing out half the contacts. Well, it's now missing more people. So the system is getting worse, not better. And the system seems to perform worse in areas where the infection is worst as well, suggesting that it doesn't even prioritise. But then when you consider what this so-called world-beating tracing system is, I mean, it's anything but. It's an extremely simple system. The system consists entirely of a team of minimum wage workers with no training. They get a PDF. I think it runs to 2 pages, I'm told. A list of contacts and a phone. So how could it ever do anything complex? All they do is ring the numbers. If they get through, great, they pass the message on. If they don't, they try another 9 times. Once they've tried 10 times, that's it, they forget about it. They don't even try anymore. Forget it. We could be waiting until the crack of doom for this government to actually improve things. So thank goodness a few local councils had the leadership to do something about it, and hopefully that leadership will inspire others as well. And part of me looks at it and thinks that the government will try and take the credit for improvements caused as a result of these local authorities. You know that's going to happen. This government seeks to blame people where something goes wrong and take the credit where something goes right, whether or not it's their responsibility. But at the end of the day, this is people's lives at stakes. If people are ignorant or blinkered enough to think the government will have been useful during this sad episode in our nation's history, then let them. But I, for one, am quite pleased that people are increasingly going, this isn't good enough. Can we do something about it? Yes, we can, so we will. But there it is. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.